Welcome to Okta Release Highlights, November edition. We will go over generally available new features, GA enhancements, and early access new features. Let's get started. Here are some of the generally available new features released this month. Okta RADIUS Server Agent version 2.17.7 contains security fixes and resolves a memory leak that occurred when agents were configured for EAP, TTLS. See Okta RADIUS Server Agent version history. Super admins can now assign the following permissions to their custom admin roles: Manage Authorization Server, View Authorization Server, Manage Customizations, and View Customizations. The authorization server permissions can be scoped to all, or a subset of the org's authorization servers. Smart Card Authentication now gives users the option to use a PIV or CAC card for authentication when initially accessing applications with a custom sign-in widget. See Identity Providers. 2 new Health Insight tasks have been added to help admins improve the security of their global session policies. See Change the authentication frequency and evaluate a risk score for each request. Group rule execution is now enabled even when authentication flows fail during policy execution. All Okta admins now benefit from the redesigned Okta Admin Dashboard and responsive navigation sidebar. Consent revocation events are now selectable for use with event hooks. See Add an event hook. See Event Types for a list of events that can be used with event hooks. With Agentless Desktop Single Sign-On, you don't need to deploy IW agents in your Active Directory domains to implement DSSO functionality. This reduces or eliminates the maintenance overhead and provides high availability as Okta assumes responsibility for Kerberos validation. See Active Directory Desktop Single Sign-On. Agentless Desktop Single Sign-On and integrated Windows authentication sessions now include polling to reduce the likelihood of service disruptions during periods of high bandwidth use. For users authenticating with ADSSO or IWA during peak periods, this change increases the likelihood that a server will be available to process their authentication request. See Active Directory Desktop Single Sign-On. Agentless Desktop Single Sign-On authentication progress pages have been updated to make authorization and verification progress more visible and improve the user experience. See Configure Agentless Desktop Single Sign-On. You can now specify the password expiration policies for Active Directory for all preview organizations. Just-in-time provisioning enables automatic user account creation in Okta the first time a user authenticates with Active Directory Delegated Authentication, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol Delegated Authentication, or Desktop SSO. JIT account creation and activation only works for users who aren't already Okta users. This means that users who are confirmed on the import results page, regardless of whether or not they were subsequently activated, aren't eligible for JIT activation. See Add and update users with Active Directory just-in-time provisioning. New Service Principal Name functionality allows agentless desktop single sign-on authentication to continue without interruption when an SPN is updated. With this change, you can now update the SPN frequently as an additional security precaution. See Create a Service Account and configure a Service Principal Name. Okta LDAP integrations now feature custom mapping, schema discovery, and a fully extensible attribute schema that allows you to import or update any attribute stored in LDAP. With these enhancements, Okta LDAP matches the schema functionality already available to Active Directory integrations. See Profile Editor. You can now input a comma-separated list of auxiliary object classes when importing users from LDAP. See Configuring your LDAP settings. You can now filter the APIs listed on the Rate Limits dashboard by their rate limit multiplier eligibility status. See Rate Limit Monitoring. Now let's move on to GA enhancements. The email address for ISV portal communications is now oanapp@okta.com. Finally, let's review early access features. Using a more secure OAuth 2.0 connection than access tokens, this integration type uses the core Okta API to access or modify resources like system logs, apps, sessions, and policies. See API Service Integrations. Thank you for viewing the November Okta release highlights. For details, please visit the Okta release notes and product notes at the links in the description.